This warning sign on the S&P 500 tells us that it might be time to start going down. What I'm looking at is a very specific candle pattern, which is 4 full candles in a row. And this is really notable because the last time it happened was 6 months ago, ironically, right around the end of the quarter, which we're going to get on Thursday. We're going to have the close of the week, the month, and the quarter. There's also a lot of other warning signs, including everything I have outlined here. There's a lot. By the way, we went through a lot of this on the weekend, but I'll give you the cliff notes today. So please make sure you stay tuned all the way until the end. The reason why I say this is a warning sign and not confirmation is because a pattern is a pattern until it breaks. So Bitcoin wasn't a head and shoulders, and now it's not. So Bitcoin was able to buck the trend, get back above the previous all-time high at 69,000, and actually form a back test and pass here. So what I'm trying to do is to tell you that as we're set to close out, monthly candles at the end of the week for most major indices, a lot of them are currently right around that all-time high. Above or below really matters for the Bitcoin. It doesn't just matter for the Bitcoin, it also matters for QQQ. Why? Well, the question is going to be whether or not we actually close over this previous candle high. We noted that 441 is resistance, which means that is a monthly higher high. Well, we're awfully close here. We got 440.59. We cannot afford to drop by more than 1%, or basically we can't really afford to repeat today for the next 2 days. It's a short and trading week, and that's the other warning sign that I have here. It is the where's QQQ monthly above or below 441. So that's really, really, really important because like I mentioned, we close out the weekly, the monthly, and the quarterly chart on Thursday, which will be a shortened week. So when I keep talking about if in doubt, zoom out, well, what does that mean? It means that if we're ignoring the key patterns which are forming here, I can guarantee that money managers, market makers are not ignoring it. Why? They're going to be rebalancing billions and billions and billions in stock on Thursday at the close. That's what always happens. And if we look at the rest of these warnings, there's a lot of them. Let me show you one more, and then we'll go through the news for the day. So NVDA, right? It's quite red on the day. It might even be the reddest stock in the S&P 500. As UPS is worse. So maybe second worst or third worst. But the reason why this matters is because we were talking about a pattern of expansion, continuation, or hollow candles. Now let's go look here at NVDA on the weekly chart. So NVDA on the weekly chart does not currently have a hollow candle. What does it have? It has a full candle. So all that means is that the rally could, keyword being could, start to fizzle out like it did here. Fizzling out just means that maybe it's time to go sideways. I'm not saying we have to go down. I'm just saying that the current rate of ascent is now going to get more and more difficult to hold. Why? Man, that's a sharp angle. It's pointing straight up. Is it going to keep pointing straight up? Well, that's the really big question. I'm going to ask you for a huge favor. If you could please consider smashing the thumbs up and subscribing to the channel, I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. All right, so we talked about a few warning signs so far. Let's see what else we got here. Well, we know that S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell, Dow Jones, chips, they're all overbought on the weekly. However, they did not form a weekly lower low next week, which means we're going to have to see that pattern play out. So let's look at QQQ because it's probably the closest one to giving us that warning here. We also know there's been a lot. I'm talking a lot of warnings here. These are going to be full candles in a row, 3 specifically. The last time we had this many in a row, we were going down. I'm not sure if this time's different. I'm just noticing that this candlestick pattern tells me something. What does a full candle mean? Well, it means that we're closing lower than we opened. Okay, that's good to know. But what else? Because here we look at this this card that tells us that criteria for analyzing a chart in 10 seconds. Price is king, and when we close lower than we opened, we're pointing down. What does a volume tell us here on the NASDAQ? Oh, it's big red. Yeah. So if we're looking at the periods where we have those full candles, well, it's a lot of big red bars. That's selling. Oh, so they're like rushing for the exit. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So we're pointing down. We're at risk of losing this channel too. Basically going below the 50 MA or the short-term price would kind of give us confirmation here. So we're still pointing up. However, the candles are telling us that we're short-term pointing down. So we're getting a warning. But let's go back to the notes because I don't want to confuse you. I have a simple message. I just want to make sure you hear it. So before we get confirmation on the weekly chart for QQQ, What's going to have to happen? Well, we're going to have to go below 433.32 this week. Remember, I just told you that 441 is going to give us a failed breakout back below 440. So before we test 430s, if this number doesn't hold and we close the candle out on Thursday, well, we got a failed breakout on the monthly. What does that mean? It means short sellers now have an area where they can actually put their stops. It'll be just above here at 450. Because if this is the reversal, that's where we're going to be wrong if it starts to go back up. And as I'm looking here objectively too, I'm noticing that the volume is dropping off on the weekly as we do go higher. So there's also a conflict here. Remember, price is king, but it's excellent when volume confirms the move. If we go back to NVDA as a quick example, look what happens here. We have increasing price, increasing volume, and when people thought the stock was overvalued at 500 or about 1 trillion and some change, well, it doubled. So that's your warning sign. When we have the price confirm with the volume, that's an excellent signal. Nothing in life is a guarantee, but this is probably as close as it gets. We've talked about how it could be 1995, 1982, which means we could have huge moves, hundreds of percent potentially. But we also talked about BTC, RSP, XLF, all potentially being in double tops here. So if we now zoom back out to this monthly chart, RSP here, it's above right now. Remember, we're so close within about $1.50 that we could be above or below on the close on Thursday. Maybe you want to subscribe to the channel and come hang out with me for the final hour because I will walk you through all this stuff. If you look at XLF, I think XLF is, it's just below. So it's just below by about, I don't know, like 25 cents. So XLF is below, RSP is above, BTC is above, but it's battling. BTC moves massively. By tomorrow, who knows where it's going to be? But same thing here. Volume increasing, share price increases. Excellent. So that's really what we want to see. We want to see these things shake off. So we talked about those. Apple and Tesla are oversold. Tesla has been able to rally. Let's look and see what that looks like here because, man, this stock's been oversold for a really long time. Well, it's a gap in crap. So even though it closed green, it rallied up, it fizzled. All right, it just fizzled. So can't hold it, right? Can't hold the gains. Probably gonna have to go for a gap fill. And good old Apple, good old reliable, suck, right? Down by 2.6 in the last week. Can't catch a break. The S&P daily channel, let's look at that now. So let's go back here to SPY. I talked about this at the beginning, but it's basically that if we stop pointing up, we could start going sideways. If we start going sideways, we could go down. So on the weekly chart, that also means that S&P is going to have to crack. We're going to have to lose 511 by the end of the week, which ironically is exactly where we are for our monthly high. So we know the key area for SPY. It's likely going to hold. I think the NASDAQ is the really big clue. And then finally here, we also have DXY, which is flashing a signal here. Let's look and see what that says. So DXY, which is inversely correlated to the market, is trying to break this downtrend. It is currently set for a third consecutive candle close over the 50 MA. And all that means is that when it's able to build up that short-term momentum, what does it do? Well, look, here's the last time it happened. Oh my goodness, what a rally. Yeah, what a rally. Look over here, all the way up, and then it finally loses it. So this is giving me pause because this uptrend goes all the way back to the beginning of 2021 and late 2020. So it's a long pattern. There's a lot of time on this chart, and it's above the 50, it's above the 200, and it looks like it wants to go up. So I think that's pretty much it. If we look at the fear and greed, the market is not really getting uneasy yet. So if we're going to take that elevator down, we're going to have to see this thing go back from greed into neutral and then probably back down into fear. But hindsight is always 20/20. We can always look back and be like, oh, that's what happened. So because tomorrow has very light data, I would really focus on where we close tomorrow because we're going to be playing chess on Thursday. I really encourage you to watch the weekend deep dive, which is queued up here on the left-hand side. If not, maybe you want to subscribe and come hang out tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.